Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. As the government prepares its biggest ever budget, the most vibrant budget as the finance minister likes to say, the million-dollar question is, has some kind of a durable recovery, revival and rebound in the economy set in such that the growth trajectory has been reversed from negative to positive? If you go by the government stand and if you only look at the GST collection figures, you might actually say so. As per the government collection figures, GST has exceeded a monthly collection of 1 lakh crores for the third consecutive month. The last reported figure was 1.15 lakh crores collection. And if you go by this, the government would want us to believe that some kind of a recovery has indeed set in. But then to us, merely by looking at one parameter, one item, which is just GST collections, and trying to forecast the economy, trying to conclude the state of the economy, to us, that is indulging in half-truths and ignoring the full truths. For a better view of the economy, for a more broad-based analysis of the economy, we would like to see the minutes of the last MPC meeting of the RBI. The last meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the RBI concluded on 4th of December and the minutes got issued. This MPC committee consists of 6 experts and therefore their collective view would be far more broad-based than just looking at a GST collection figure which the government would like to put forward. The MPC in its meeting maintained the repo rate, the interest rate at 4%. It also maintained its stance as accommodative for this financial year and also for the next financial year till the time, as the MPC says, sustained recovery sets in the economy. The impact of COVID is mitigated and inflation comes within its target of 4 to 6%. Thus, according to the MPC, sustained recovery has not yet set in and so it is maintaining an accommodative stance. The MPC's assessment of the global economy was that pent-up demand in the global economy is exhausted. It then says that inventory restocking in the globe, because of which demand has gone up, is also over. And it further says that trade-related uncertainties are rising, and that's because there is a second upsurge of COVID. COVID-2 has come in. And that is the assessment of the global economy, not the best. Very clear that the global economy remains subdued and uncertain. It then further says that global financial markets will continue to be buoyant, and that's because of highly accommodative monetary policies that are being announced by every country. To that, we would also add the accommodative fiscal stimulus that they are been adding for their policy making. And it also says that global markets remain buoyant also because positive news has been coming on the vaccine front. This has been the assessment of the global economy by the MPC. The MPC's assessment of the domestic economy says that India's economy contracted by 7.5% in the second quarter ended September 2020. And that's far better than what it was in the first quarter ended June 2020. In the first quarter, the economy contracted by a stunning 23.9% because of the lockdown that was imposed. It got far better in the second quarter. It then says that high frequency indicators show that recovery is gaining ground in the economy. But it also points out that in the month of November, this recovery moderated, it dipped. In other words, we are not seeing a situation where recovery is consistently growing month after month. In one month, if it is better, in the next month, it dips again. And that shows uncertainty prevailing in the economy. The MPC then notes that there was a sharp increase in food inflation in the economy. It then points out that financial conditions remained easy and there was surplus liquidity in the system. Perhaps because of that, the non-food credit for the first time after many months recorded a positive growth. And Forex reserves, as the MPC says, touched an all-time high in India. That was the assessment of the domestic economy by the MPC. And based on its assessment of the global economy and the domestic economy, it then gave its own outlook and forecast for the economy in the coming months and also the state of the economy as it sees in the coming months. It says that inflation will remain elevated. Its outlook on inflation front is adverse, and that's because it notes that food prices continue to remain strong and there is volatility in the international fuel and oil markets. Because of that, inflation will remain elevated. Not very nice as far as India's growth initiatives are concerned. Whenever inflation is strong, growth always suffers, and thus we are going to see challenges to growth in the coming months, according to us. It further says that rural demand will strengthen, and so will urban demand, according to it. According to it, urban demand will strengthen because as lockdown keeps getting easier and eased out, it will spur activity and it will also spur employment, which will create demand. We beg to differ because employment figures are not the best to talk about. In fact, unemployment remains at an all-time high. But yet, that is what the MPC thinks, that urban demand is going to improve because employment is going to improve. Consumer remains optimistic in its outlook according to the MPC, and that actually conflicts with the Reserve Bank's own surveys, which say that consumer confidence remains at an all-time low. But here, it talks about an optimistic outlook. Business sentiment, the MPC says, of manufacturing firms has been improving, and it pertinently says that fiscal stimulus has now been moving from generating demand and consumption to providing liquidity in the system and finally to growth generating investments. If that is what is happening, that is certainly a good sign, even though we don't really see it happening at the ground level as the MPC claims it to be. The MPC then says that because of social distancing compulsions, demand for contact intensive services, as it calls them, which is travel, tourism, transportation, hospitality, etc., it says that demand in these sectors will continue to remain weak and subdued. It then notes that recovery signs in the economy are not broad-based. In other words, we are not seeing a uniform recovery take place, a similar pace of recovery in every sector. Some have been recovering, some have been languishing. And to ensure that there is a broad-based recovery in the economy, it says we will need sustained policy support, fiscal policy support, as well as monetary policy support. Its assessment of growth is that in the third quarter of this financial year, which is the quarter ended 31st December 2020, the economy will not contract. It will grow by 0.1%, a mere 0.1%, but positive 0.1%. And in the next quarter, which is the quarter ended 31st March 2021, in its assessment, the economy will grow by 0.7%. It says that we need to nurture and support growth. It says that any premature withdrawal or rollback of liquidity which has been infused in the system will be detrimental to growth. It will be detrimental to recovery. In other words, there is not going to be a sudden withdrawal of liquidity from the system by the Reserve Bank of India. It will be withdrawn if and when in a calibrated and correct manner. To us, this outlook of the MPC borders on being optimistic, and we think that somewhere this optimism is misplaced. It is misplaced because it is not broad-based. It is misplaced because it is not impacting every sector of the economy. And it is misplaced because while in 1 month it is good, in the next month we are seeing a moderation, we are seeing a dip in recovery. In giving this kind of an outlook, the MPC overlooks or does not mention some more critical parameters that should have been considered. And those are that core sector of the economy continues to dip. It again contracted by 2.6% in the last month. And the core sector consists of 8 critical industries: cement, steel, oil and gas, petroleum, fertilizers, mining, and a few others. These key industries are showing weakness, contraction, and that's a matter of concern. Further, the PMI index for the manufacturing sector as well as the service sector continues to remain weak. Exports again dipped in the month of December, and most importantly, jobs are not coming by. Unemployment remains high. It remains high in the urban sector. It remains high in the rural sector. And these parameters show that it is not a very optimistic situation as the MPC would like us to believe. The larger picture to us is that demand needs to come back in case we need sustained recovery. And for demand to come back, we need investments, we need fresh jobs, and then we will have fresh spending, because of which demand will come back and recovery will come back. And what we are not seeing is investments. What we are not seeing is jobs. What we are not seeing is spending. All of them remain uncertain. They're all languishing. And what we are seeing today is a slow, sluggish, and struggling economy. And it's a long way to go before we show the kind of optimism that the likes of MPC want to show just now. At the moment, the RBI's assessments to us somewhere borders on half-truths. The full truths are somewhere else. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.